Lots, I could never emulate your ability to break down rosters, so take it away. Notable upcoming free agents. We heard these guys' names a lot. How do the Bolts handle this?
Don't expect any of these guys back, and not because they didn't contribute in significant ways, just because they've priced themselves up by their great play. The Lightning, they don't have that luxury of maintaining guys this year. They just don't. So now they're going to have to look internal. I don't think they need to go out and try to sign cheap free agents. I think they just need to look from within. And they've got players down in the minors like, let's take a look here, Alex Bear-Boulay. Skilled guy, definitely can do it. Mitchell Stevens, we've seen him in a number of games. You want some size? Taylor Radish, he can give that to you. You want some high skill? Boris Kachuk, more than a point a game in the American League. And Cal Foote, a guy that's already started that run up to being a regular NHL player. They have everybody, and they have optionality for their coach to fill their losses. Now, are they going to replace Coleman, who I thought was fabulous? Are they going to replace Goodrow, who I also thought really understood his role and was terrific? Or even David Savard? Not exactly. But the difference will be the difference between a Blake Coleman and, say, a Taylor Radish. It won't be a complete loss. They will get some good play out of those guys. They'll have to get some internal growth. And their opportunity, if all goes right, will be to maybe make a move at the trade deadline if they need just a little bit of boost. But the rest of their team is coming back. 11 forwards already signed, okay? And a guy like Ross Colton, internally, he's capable of more. We saw that. Defense, there are 5 guys coming back.
That 88 guy.
That 88 guy coming back.
Yes.
Like, they already have the makings of a great team. I don't understand why people are saying, well, I don't know if they'll be able to do it next year. This team's going to get broken up. When John Cooper says that, don't take it as he's ripping the whole thing down.
Right.
Take it as he's being respectful for guys that he knows made huge contributions in Coleman, in Goodrow, and in David Savard, who didn't play a lot of minutes, and yet he made a beautiful assist on the winning goal. A guy that's going to go on, and quite frankly, even though he played in the third pair, it's going to be a top 4D for somebody. Someone's going to sign him as that role.
We talked about their draft picks and them being able to find players later in the rounds, and same thing with the minors and players. And they don't have a lot of picks because they're finishing and winning Stanley Cups. You don't get a lot of high first-round picks. You got to be able to pick later in the draft and supplement the cupboard. One area I'm looking at for the Tampa Bay Lightning next year goes more for the regular season is a backup goaltender.
Yep.
You got to address that situation. Vasilevsky, the workload, back-to-back championships, the workload has to be a little bit lighter during the regular season. You've got to find maybe a 50-30 split if they go back to 82, 50-32 split maybe.
Yep.
Because McElhinney, when
Do
they
you
put him
think
in
you
this
can
year,
find that in the market?
you can, yes.
I agree with you.
It says best Julian Breezeball, but that's one area that they're going to have to address.
Yep.
I'm not sure how much money they'd want to spend. You'd look probably about $1 million. At that position.
Might be less.
Yeah.
I would think guys would line up for it, though, that were willing to invest in their career. And you could go either way, don't you think? You could go with a younger kid because Vasi now, as he approaches 27, more mature, or you could go with a veteran if you wanted to go that route, too.
That's the one area that I would look at for them. And then the younger players coming in to fill the voids. You're walking into a veteran-laden locker room. That's one area that Coleman and Goodrow, they're both veterans.
Yep.
So these youngsters are going to have to learn on the fly. How quickly do they adapt through the scenario? Interesting offseason for Tampa Bay. We thought this would be last year, but it happens to come up a year later where they're going to have to do some salary cap maneuvering and some players. They talked about it. John Cooper in his statements there, what I thought was interesting, that he said he didn't address the team about it, but it was actually addressed in the dressing room from a report I made a few times throughout the course of the playoffs, saying we're not going to be together next year, all of us.
Yep.
And that we've got to get it done this year because this is a special team and realize the position and opportunity we had. And Stamkos made the statement one time, a couple other individuals. And they knew what they had there, and they were willing to put it all on the line. That was a special group that got it done. Yeah.
A lot of respect, I thought, John showed to those guys because I could easily make the case that they are replaceable. They were super valuable, but they are the players that you can replace.
Like a Pat Maroon.
Yes.
Bring him back. He's a player that...
He can fill the exact same role next year. He's got another year left on his contract at $900,000. They'd be delighted. But what I really love, Billy, and you can answer this question, I think I know what you'll say, but if you were a young player and you watched these last 2 years and you kind of were a Barclay Goodrow type player, I hope that's...
Yes, yeah, that's fair.
Fair. wouldn't you know exactly what's expected of you, having watched these 2 years, to come into that role?
Mm-hmm. Wouldn't it be a dream as a player to come in and you finally get that opportunity to learn like the veterans like this? Once you get into my situation, when we went to the Stanley Cup in that building with the expansion years, the Scrudelins, the Mellenbys, the veterans in the locker room, the advice that they were able to pass on to me, and Roger Nielsen, my first coach, a coach like John Cooper, I went from being in Quebec and kind of a rookie to learning this is what the NHL was all about. I don't have to score goals up here.
Right.
I just got to do this. I got to chip it out and chip it in, be physical, block some shots, and you can find a way to stay in the league. And then all these young guys are thinking the same thing.
Right.
If I come up, I don't have to score 20 goals.
Right.
I can score 10 and block shots and be a nasty guy out there, and I can find myself with an NHL job.
Exactly. And that's why I'm so bullish on the Lightning.
There are more jobs in the NHL because now that this Cup final is in the books, there are 32 NHL franchises. The Seattle Kraken will have their expansion draft. Anytime there's any draft, I always turn to this guy, and you were pointing to him too. For the Lightning, that's another issue in terms of their roster being shaped. What are you thinking about that?
I'm thinking that there's potential that it could be a benefit for them. They do want to lose one player. We've talked about it quite a bit. That guy that looks expendable. Let's look at the guys that they're going to keep, in my opinion. And the three guys with NMC are the guys that have no move contracts. So you have to protect them. Every team has players like that. They're automatics. Braden Point, that's an automatic. Yanni Gourde, I think, earned himself that right by the way he played in this playoff run. Some people used to think as a third-line player at 5'2", maybe a little expensive. Cirelli, he's an automatic, and I think Killorn is an automatic as well. So that's your forward group, and you can go one of two ways. You can protect 4D and 4 other skaters and the goalie, or you can go 7, 3, and 1. 7 skaters, 3D, and 1. They've got a lot of options, but when it's all said and done, the name you didn't see on there that will be of extreme interest to Seattle would be a guy like Eric Chernak. That's a guy that you'd have to think they'd be sitting there and saying, I'd love to have this guy. Played all but 2 games when he was injured and played in the top shutdown. Played the second most even strength minutes on the team. Doesn't participate on the power play, does kill penalties, of course. And he's a young player that has just really burst on the scene. He's a little bit of Ivan Drago in the Rocky movies.
Yes.
Like, this guy is a rock. That's a guy that will be of interest, but the Lightning have other options. They could potentially look at maybe moving a Yanni Gourde. You could trade him and get something in return. Same for Palat. Tyler Johnson, you're going to have to give something to move him because of the term left on his contract. 3 more years at $5 million, playing more of a third, fourth line role. Ronnie Francis isn't going to say, sure, I'll take that. He might say, I'll tell you what, you arrange it just how we had it just a second ago. I'll take Chernak. You give me a first rounder, and I'll take Tyler Johnson, and I'll solve all your problems. Would it solve all their problems? It would solve all their cap problems. It wouldn't solve a loss of a top 4D, though. A good young player that's reasonably cheap that has another year left on his contract. So a lot to digest for Julien Brisebois, a lot to digest for Ron Francis. He's going to have a lot of fun really soon here. Even though everybody said, Billy, it won't be like Vegas, it's starting to look a lot like Vegas to me in terms of the options that are going to come down the path of the Seattle Kraken. And I don't want to say anymore because I think Ron is calling me. Stop putting pressure on us, Lance. We already know what we face.
Right.
Ricky Olczyk, he's in the back room. He's pouring himself a drink right about now. No, I'm kidding. I love Ricky and Ryan. They're great guys. They're going to do an awesome job, and the world is their oyster.
Tampa Bay, though, all this stuff coming down the pipeline, 1 week. Forget about everything. Enjoy it.
Yes. All this can wait.
All this stuff right now,
day.
yes, take that week with the Stanley Cup. Second time in a row.
It's going to come really quick, though,
the
Billy.
best was the Tom Brady don't throw the thing.
It's a little lighter with tequila.
It's a little lighter with tequila.